Hello you guys, welcome back. This is part 4 of the question of the who's of the pre-tribulation rapture teaching. Who are the who's? Who started this whole thing? Let's go ahead and start with number 3 of the Jesuit priests. Remember I said I want to introduce you to 4 Jesuit priests? Number 3 is Cardinal Roberto Bellarmine. He's one of the best known Jesuit apologists. Let me find a picture of him. 1581 through 1593. His book was called The Polemic Lectures Concerning the Disputed Points of the Christian Belief Against the Heretics of this time. So he called the Protestants the heretics of his time. He denied the day equal year principle, because remember, until that point, people were saying, Daniel didn't mean, 70 literal weeks, or, they didn't mean, literal 1260 days. Everyone believed before then that it was not to be taken literally, but he denied the day equals year principle of the prophecy. And he made it seem, no, they really were talking about day. They really did mean that day equals day. They didn't mean that day equals year or whatever. And so he pushed the Antichrist reign to a future and literal 3.5 years, which I think the first guy did also. First guy, Francisco Ribera, he also pushed it ahead to a 3.5 literal years, so that they wouldn't be involved in that. Because had it been years, they would have been thrown in the bunch probably too. But when you make, had it been literal that many years, literally, it would have been involved a lot of history. But since he made it 3.5 years, there's no time at all. See, he said, no, that's not talking about now. That's talking about a far distant, literal 3.5 years. So, and then the fourth guy I want you all to, let me see if I can find this guy's book. Here's Cardinal Roberto Bellarmine's book. And it's also in Latin. So again, it's really just, I don't see the point of this big seal for. I don't understand all that. They didn't have that in the New Testament, so I don't know. It makes you it just feels kind of creepy when you see all this. It makes you wonder, y'all some kind of secret order, some secret society, and they really are. The Illuminati, the Los Alumbrados, the illuminated ones. So the fourth guy I want you all to be introduced to is Manuel Lacunza. He's a Jesuit priest, 1731 through 1801. I guess he was born in 1731, died in 1801. He was born in Santiago, Chile. I never know how to pronounce that word either. Chile, Santiago, Chile. He was born there. He moved to Italy in 1767. And guess what? This guy is the creepiest of them all, because he actually posed as a converted Jew. He posed as somebody who was a real Jew who got converted into Christianity. And he did that so that he would have more clout. Because, who's going to just believe some random, somebody who thinks they, know something. People will, most people will believe a Jewish convert, because they know our Bible history and everything. And, they understand more of the prophecy because they're Jewish people, so they know more. But people think they know more. So he actually pretended to be a Jewish person for that reason. And also because, I think the main reason probably, was because people probably didn't even trust the Jesuit priests, because they already knew they're Roman Catholics and they had a plot perhaps. So instead of writing as who he really was, a Jesuit priest, he started to deceive people and to pretend he was a Jewish convert. And here's his picture here. He looks creepy. This is Manuel Lacunza. Let me see. P. Emmanuel Lacunza Society. Yesu, that's how they wrote Jesus at that time. They didn't use a J. What does that say? Chilensis, whatever that says. So this is this dude. Okay. Let me show you his book. Here's his book here. His pen name is Juan Josaphat ben Ezra. We know Ezra, that's a Hebrew name. Look at that, Hebreo Cristiano. So he pretended that he was a converted Jew. In his book, now he wrote it in Spanish, but it's called The Coming of the Messiah in Glory and Majesty. So you see how he pretended that he was this Jewish person to get, I guess, more clout. So he deceived people. So you already know right there, when a Christian has to lie like that and to write a book, you know, under a pseudonym, you kind of already don't trust him really. So, like I said, he posed as a converted Jew in Italy in 1767. Juan Josaphat ben Ezra. He wrote a large apocalyptic work in Spanish called The Coming of the Messiah in Glory and Majesty. His book appeared first in 1811, 10 years after his death in Imola, Italy, in 1801. It was translated in English, and you would not believe who translated this book into English. Edward Irving. He is the guy that most people credit with the Pre-Tribulation teaching. Most people they say John Nelson Darby or they say Edward Irving. And so we see here that Edward Irving likely got his view from Jesuit priests who were sent to intentionally mislead the Protestants. And most of you all watching this are Protestants. If you're not Catholic, you're more than likely a Protestant. So most people credit, they don't search back further than the 1800s. They say, well, Edward Irving came up with the interpretation of the pre-tribulation rapture teaching, or God revealed to him this. Same with John Nelson Darby. God revealed to him this thing. But guess what? John Nelson Darby and Edward Irving were very close friends. Now, John Nelson Darby claims that God gave him a vision of a rapture before the second coming, before the end of the world. But we see here that John Nelson Darby was close friends with Edward Irving. He attended many of, at least some of Edward Irving's church services. We found out that Edward Irving, that he translated fake Juan Josaphat ben Ezra, whose real name was Manuel Lacunza, Jesuit priest, and he translated his book into English. So it's kind of, and this is the irony here. The irony is that John Nelson Darby, he was ordained by Church of Ireland in order to convert Roman Catholics to be Protestants. That's what he was ordained to do. And it's fun, and it's a strange twist of irony that he was sent to convert Roman Catholics into Protestants, and instead a Catholic kind of converted his end time view into Catholicism. That's a very strange twist of irony. If any of this is true. Now let me tell you all something about Jesuits. Most of you all don't know about Jesuits. Let me tell you all. I'm not going to tell you about them specifically, but I'm going to let some historical figures tell you about them. I want you to hear about these Jesuit priests from the mouths of some of our people that we know about in history. First, I want to introduce to you another who, John Adams. You all know John Adams. In 1816, John Adams wrote to President Jefferson, "Shall we not have regular swarms of them here, in as many disguises as only a king of the gypsies can assume, dressed as painters, publishers, writers, and schoolmasters? If ever there was a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth and in hell, it is this Society of Loyola." Remember I told you about Ignatius de Loyola? Ignatius de Loyola. Remember I told you about that guy? He already said, if there's anybody of men who ever earned and deserved eternal damnation on earth and in hell, he said the Jesuit priests were deserving of that. That's how much he thought of these men. Another guy, General Lafayette, General Marquis de Lafayette, he worked with Washington. In 1799, this is what he wrote about the Jesuit priests. He wrote, "It is my opinion that if the liberties of this country, the United States of America, are destroyed, it will be by the subtlety of the Roman Catholic Jesuit priests. For they are the most crafty, dangerous enemies to civil and religious liberty They have instigated most of the wars of Europe. So they're already not looking so hot right now. So even though you may not know exactly what all the Jesuit priests believe and do, you can just listen to these examples and tell they're not very liked men by people who knew them. Now let's bring in Abraham Lincoln, Honest Abe. Now what does Honest Abe have to say about these Jesuit priests? I have two quotes from him. I'm going to start with this one here. President Lincoln told Charles Chinnicky his views on the Jesuits. So many plots have already been made against my life that it is a real miracle that they have all failed. But can we expect that God will make a perpetual miracle to save my life? I believe not. The Jesuits are so expert in those deeds of blood that Henry IV, King of France, who was assassinated by the Jesuit Ravaillac for giving liberty to his people, said that it was impossible to escape them, and he became their victim, though he did all he could do to protect himself. My friends, he said, to protect himself. My escape from their hands, since the letter of the Pope to Jeff Davis has sharpened 1,000,000 of daggers to pierce my breast, would be more than a miracle. I know that Jesuits never forget nor forsake. Man must not care how and where he dies, provided he dies at the post of honor and duty. So Abraham Lincoln knew he was going to die. He knew he was going to die. He knew that if he were to die, when he died, he knew it would be because of Jesuit priests, because of the plot. I'm telling y'all, these men are very sneaky, crafty men. They, like I said, their purpose was to deceive Protestants, and they really did, because most Protestants believe in this pre-tribulation rapture. So they really did. Mission accomplished. Good job, Jesuits. And there's still Jesuits out today. This is not an old thing. They still have Jesuits. This is old, but the Jesuits are still around today. You need to look them up on the internet. Look on YouTube and look up some of their ex-Jesuit videos, and you'll be appalled at what they will tell you. So Honest Abe, you guys, this is not no man with a questionable character. Honest Abe said that these men were going to be the ones to kill him, and he did die. He was assassinated. And so one more quote by Honest Abe. This is a quote from him about the Civil War. He says, this war would never have been possible without the sinister, that means evil and wicked, without the sinister influence of the Jesuits. We owe it to popery, papacy, pope. We owe it to popery that we now see our land reddened with the blood of her noblest sons. Though there were great differences of opinion between the South and North, the Civil War, the war between the South and the North. Though there were great differences of opinion between the South and North on the question of slavery, neither Jeff Davis nor any one of the leading men of the Confederacy would have dared to attack the North had they not relied on the false promise of the Jesuits that under the mask of democracy, so they were sneaky, they were tricking them under the mask of democracy, the money and the arms of the Roman Catholics, even the arms of France, were at their disposal if they would attack us. So Abraham Lincoln knew, I knew Jeff Davis, he's one of the leaders of the Confederacy at the time. He knew that Jeff Davis was not, they knew they were going to win that war. It was not enough of them. They were not advancing enough in order to win this war. But he said the only reason though they attacked the North was because the Jesuit priests, the Roman Catholics, had lied to them and told them, if you attack them, we'll give you our weapons, we'll back you up with money and stuff, we'll take care of you, we'll even have France help you out. And so this is, this is Honest Abe talking. So you may not know everything about these men, you may not understand everything about the Roman Catholics, but just know these are four quotes about these evil Jesuit Roman Catholic priests. These men, they say, made up the pre-tribulation rapture teaching in order to deceive Protestants. And they did it. Because most Protestants believe in this pre-tribulation rapture. And that can only mean, one thing it can mean is that the Roman Catholic is the Antichrist. Because that's what they didn't want people to think. So perhaps Roman Catholics are the Antichrist of our time. Who knows? So, do more research, look into that. Look into these people. So this is kind of creepy. This is kind of creepy here. So look into your teaching about this Jesuit thing and the pre-tribulation rapture. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share with your family and friends. Leave comments. Bye bye.